And with just 3 days to the general election, Dr. Akinola Olojo, who is a senior researcher, Institute for Security Studies, Pretoria, joins us now to talk more about security issues regarding the polls. Thank you for your patience so far, Dr. Olojo.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you heard the person in charge of voter education, Rotimi Oyekomi, for INEC, speaking only moments ago on TVC News about the series of fire incidents happening in INEC offices across 3 states of the Federation. Some say it's a sign of things to come. What are your thoughts?
Yes, indeed, it's a very worrying situation. The fire incidents, and also beyond that, what is also happening in other parts of the country. Over the last 1 week, we have seen reports regarding attacks also in Adamawa State on the 4th of February and then subsequently on the 9th of February. There was an attack in 2 local government areas, Michika and Madagali. And, we have people talking about how, all these a cause for concern, in terms of safeguarding lives, people who need to come out and vote. So, on a number of levels, these are the things which, cause a lot of, security concern. And I think on one level, there is a need to safeguard the electoral process and across all the states in the Federation, not only in the northern region, but also, in the south, in the west, in the east. People should be able to go safely to the polling centers that are designated where they can cast their votes. On another level, there are certain states in the country which are known historically to have that tendency, where tensions rise, and then it reaches a flashpoint where violence can occur. So we have places like Kaduna, for instance. We have Plateau State. These are places where, for instance, there is this dangerous interplay between ethno-religious and socio-economic issues and even politics. We have another level also of more crucial concerns in the Northeast. We've seen persistent attacks and even some warnings issued by the Ministry of Information in late January regarding threats by Boko Haram and its breakaway faction, the Islamic State West Africa province. So these are the kind of things, the various levels of concerns. And, they call for a more visible presence of the security agencies. They call for the need for emergency and first responders to be on standby. There is a need for the security personnel to also act impartially and professionally. They should be seen as not engaging in voter intimidation tactics as we've seen in the past. They should be seen as not taking sides with either the ruling party or the opposition parties. There is a need for finalization at this point, of any contingency plans that must be put in place, if it's necessary to engage the military, especially in the very, tense parts of the country. I think those kind of things should already be in place. The civil defense and so on and so forth.
So with the assurances from INEC and the police, particularly following the meeting held yesterday with INEC, police operatives and election observers, are you assured that there will be adequate security for the electorate and all concerned during the election?
Well, I think there's a mix of responses here. It's a very important question. On one level, I think we've seen some efforts being made by the Independent National Electoral Commission. In places like Borno, for instance, we've seen INEC designate certain local government areas, about 8 of them, where people can go to vote in particular IDP camps. It's not the best of conditions in those places, but then INEC is aware of them, and they've announced since last week the plans which have been put in place to allow people to be able to cast their votes. But at the same time, we also know, like with the the fire incident and also things that are happening with attacks, states like Zamfara, Sokoto State in the Northwest Zone, where you have a history of banditry. Those are places where there might be some reason to fear something happening. But then I think so far we just need to be hopeful and just do the best we can. Nigerians should not be discouraged in terms of coming out to vote. It's an opportunity to exercise their political rights and to choose who they want, irrespective of of the prevailing narrative of just two parties. I think it's a chance for people to really exercise their rights.
Now, in spite of INEC's assurances yet again, the destruction of electoral materials during the inferno will surely have an impact on the voting population. Are you worried about that?
Indeed, I think it's a cause for worry because we have barely 3 days before the election, the big day. And for such an incident to occur at this point, I mean, first of all, it raises suspicion, especially from certain quarters, depending on the political dynamics in those, in the affected states, whether it's the ruling party, pitched against the opposition, or whether it's, vice versa. So there's a cause for worry at that point. But I think at this point, there is no going back. Elections cannot be, simply postponed. We need to move ahead. There must be nonetheless, some investigation, thorough investigation, put into all of this to really find out what would have caused this incident at this critical point in time. So we are worried, Nigerians are worried, but then I think we should not be discouraged.
Dr. Akinola Olojo of the Institute of Research in Pretoria, thank you for your contribution to this conversation, especially as regards security ahead of the presidential election on Saturday.
Thank you for having me.